grew up as a completely normal girl, except for the fact that I was attracted to a different type of person than everyone expected of me. I should have fallen for all the hot teen boys, but instead, I just wanted a girlfriend that would understand me fully. There's nothing wrong with my way of life, but there are many people who think differently, or there are some that are just generally unsure of what to think. I ask for you to listen and respect what I have to say today, and don't doubt my beliefs based on whom I am attracted to. Today, I'm going to discuss the importance of educating our children about alternative lifestyles and gay marriage in the school's home economics classes. I strongly believe that these ideals should be taught to our children, regardless of how we think it will change them, because we should love our children unconditionally, no matter what. Everyone has different ideas of how we should educate our own children, but if we have one comprehensive way to define what to say, I believe we can easily help our children understand what is right. What this class would teach is what each child can do with the information they obtain. This would mean help the children understand each other and not judge to the point of abuse or other related actions. While growing up, I had difficulties with being bullied for my way of life, and I strongly believe that if we instill in our children what it means to be different, that it's not just wrong, we can help the children really understand each other. And while I know this kind of change doesn't happen overnight, I ask for you to think of a future like this and believe that creating this education format will lead to that future. Growing up as a lesbian was a difficult task. However, I also grew up with a mother and a father that instilled the beliefs of a traditional family, but that didn't change how I turned out. So how can we listen to Mr. He's sit here and tell us that it destroys the traditional family? Because from what I can see, I ended up the way I did regardless of how I was raised. And I don't see my daughter flocking to other females like I did at her age, and this makes me think that she won't turn out like me. So how can we argue that how she was raised made her that way? All in all, I'm raising my daughter on the basis of her believing what she feels is right. How can we try to emphasize the traditional family when the traditional family is falling apart at the seams? Currently, the divorce rate is around 50%. So out of all of the marriages in this room right now, half of them will end in divorce sometime in the future. This is a scary thought, but let's not blame the children for this. If anything, the education of alternative lifestyles could help instill in children what it means to have a family. A family should not specifically consist of a mother, a father with children, and a dog. There can be many successful families with 2 mothers or 2 fathers with children, and surprise, we like dogs too. There are many parents who are generally unsure of how to educate their children in what they believe is right. This education proposal will help these parents educate their kids properly and to help them through what may be a very difficult subject to bring up. Because of this, I believe this education proposal is extremely important and should be granted the opportunity of being seriously considered. I know Mr. Donna Hayes Sheldon will tell you many different things about how this proposal will destroy families and ruin lives, but I stand here and tell you that this is a very important proposal. And if you want your children to grow up open-minded and open-hearted, please take the time to vote yes on this proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Benefield. I'm here today to talk to you and the community about something very important to me and my family. There has been a proposal to begin the teaching of alternative lifestyles and gay marriage in our home economic classes in both middle school and high school. These programs would include a comprehensive history of recent movements leading to the current status of the LGBTQ populations within our country. Now, I also grew up in this town with my mother, father, and a younger sister. We are a family of strong values and what some may deem traditional beliefs. I cherish the teachings of my parents, and as a father today, aim to pass on those deeply rooted values within me from my parents. It is important to me that my daughter receives a proper education and is not influenced by newer, radical, and unstable ideas of alternative lifestyles. These teachings of alternative lifestyles and gay marriage within our school system undermine the deeply embedded family values that our country was built on. Today, the divorce rates are at an alarmingly high rate of 50%, Yet these teachings propose to abandon the sanctity of marriage and allow anyone to get married. They will influence our children when they are the most impressionable. Why don't we spend our efforts on fixing the family and instill within our children the importance of having influences from both a mother and a father? Since the 70s, we have seen multitudes of civil movements aimed at demolishing the sacredness of the American family. I argue that this debate is an example of the continuation of civil movements from those time periods, and we must stand strong to defend our values and traditions. We cannot just sit and take no action protecting our families and everything they stand for. As much as I disapprove of teaching alternative lifestyles and gay marriage in schools, I do realize that people have a right to parent as they see fit. What I ask you today is to teach alternative lifestyles within your own home. I do not want my daughter to learn of these ideas and wish her education to remain as it is. Lately, there has been a large push to teach about bullying on gay students. Now, I too recall being bullied in high school, and traumatizing as it was, it's not a new issue. It's something that didn't arise in the past few years. I believe that the exploitation of a few instances is a result of media dramatization. I do believe that bullying takes place in schools, but I don't think it's necessary to focus on any particular facet of the topic. I believe that simply teaching students of mutual respect will help resolve many of the problems seen in schools today. I ask you to look at society, since we have begun to abandon our traditional family values. There seems to be a direct relation to violence among students and a lack of parent-to-child interactions. At this time in America, we need to focus on rebuilding our family values and restore the country to a stronger moral state. We are misusing our resources, and our efforts are directed to the media-driven topics of choice. Let's take the Prop 8 in California, for example. Millions of dollars are being spent on the legalization of marriage, but the divorce rates are continuing to rise and the public funding of schools is decreasing. What does this tell us about our values? The majority of California voted against the bill and believes that our time and money should be focused on other concerns. Yet the debate still goes on, and the funding for public schools continues to decrease. I believe that each state has its own right to decide how to run its school systems, but I believe that at this time in history, we need the influence of government to create stricter laws on the teaching of alternative lifestyles and gay marriages in school. This country needs to decrease the divorce rate and teach children the importance of family and traditional values.
Thank you, Mr. D.S., for your thoughts. I do not feel as though what you're saying, though, has much to do with the whole, as how we would want our children raised to go into the real world. It is important that as parents we instill in our children what we want to see from them, but it's also important that they're able to go out with the information and go find stuff that we are unable to give them. And that's what this proposal is exactly what can help them. First of all, calling our civil rights movement something that's aimed at demolishing the sacredness and the importance of the American family is absurd. This act is aimed at helping our community feel welcome in society. If this proposal were to succeed, it would help in educating children in understanding the difficulties faced in our community. And they can understand how it can be better if everyone was to put in the effort to not pay so much attention to how we aren't the same and spend more time focusing on how we can live together. I understand your concern about how you want your daughter to perceive the world as you do, but if she believes that there are only households with a mother and a father, she's being closed-minded. Do you want that from your daughter? And honestly, I can't see any negative side effects for her to learn what it's like otherwise, just to simply know. You're constantly expressing concern about how the media is over-portraying and over-dramatizing things, and I believe that as well. But in this case, wouldn't it make more sense for us to push this proposal then? Then children are learning in a predetermined, controlled environment about how alternative lifestyles are successful and not seeing the media exaggerations in any negative way. And I'd like to point out that yes, our divorce rates are high, but not allowing anyone to get married, that seems a tad bit dramatic, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
If we're trying to keep the sanctity of marriage intact, I believe strongly that we should allow anyone who wants to get married, do it. This is simply because if we try to oppress it, nothing good can come of that. However, if we take the time to educate our children, like what happened in this proposal, they can learn what the traditional family is supposed to be. In conclusion, I ask all of you to seriously consider everything that I have put forth and understand that our children should all learn the same things to keep the ignorance out of the world.
Thank you again, Ms. Benefield, for your argument, but I believe that there's a larger issue at hand than just this proposal. We are currently faced with difficult economic times in this country, and we need to make the family even stronger. There are so many vices in the world, and we must raise our children to overcome them and prepare them to raise families of their own. The high usages of technology and various media outlets are only weakening the family. There should be a tolerance towards people with alternative lifestyles, but I still believe that my daughter has the right to learn the values passed on to me from my parents. This country was built on a strong foundation of traditions, and to abandon them would just be truly tragic. So I ask you today, think about our society and the values that you wish to pass on to your children. The fight to restore America is in our hands and future generations to come. So please consider this topic wisely. Thank you very much.
Woo!